I'm Sloane. I watched my daughter apologize to a stuffed bear, and I realized I'd taught her that. But before that moment, before the crack, there was the normal. Normal was knowing which floorboards creaked and avoiding them after 10 p.m. Normal was making his coffee first, even if mine got cold. Normal was shrinking myself to fit into the slivers of space he allowed. I became a ghost in my own house, haunting the hallways, making sure everything was calm, peaceful, and exactly as he liked it. I thought my only job was to absorb the impact, to make myself smaller and smaller until I was just a thin, transparent layer between his moods and my family. And I told myself this was not just normal, it was noble. I wasn't weak. I told myself that every morning. Looking in the mirror, trying to find my own eyes, I'd say, "You're strong, you can handle this." I wore my endurance like a medal. See, I'm loyal, I'm a good partner, I'm a good mom. That was the big one. Leaving? Leaving felt like the most selfish, terrifying thing in the world. It was easier to believe I was a load bearing wall, holding up the whole damn house. A condemned house, maybe, but I was holding it. This was my post. This was my job, and I just had to be strong enough to do it. Who was I to want more than that? It wasn't a fight. There wasn't any yelling. It was a Tuesday. I was trying to figure out what to make for dinner, probably staring at a chicken breast like it held the secrets to the universe. And I heard her, my daughter, playing in her room. I peeked in from the doorway. She was lining up her stuffed animals. The big teddy bear, Mr. Flufferton, fell off the bed. And I heard her little voice, a perfect echo of my own, say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Flufferton. I'm sorry. Was I in your way? I'm so sorry." The sound in the house just stopped. Everything went quiet. It was like watching a video of myself, that careful automatic apology, the immediate assumption of blame. I had taught her that. Love to her was learning to say sorry for existing. The worst part was the performance. At a friend's barbecue, someone clasped my arm and said, "You two are just the best. You're so lucky." I remember my face hurting from the smile I had to produce. "Thanks," I said, while my insides were just a tangle of knots. The exhaustion was the kind that sleep couldn't touch. I'd forget simple words mid-sentence. I started questioning my own memory. Did he really say he'd call it two? I'd wonder. Or did I just make that up? Because whenever I'd bring something up, the answer was always the same. "You're being dramatic." That literally never happened. And the most embarrassing part was that I was starting to believe him. It was easier than believing my own reality was a lie. That night, after the Mr. Flufferton incident, I went in to tuck her in. I smoothed her hair back, and she looked up at me, and I saw my own tired eyes, my own apologetic posture, even in her sleep. The decision wasn't some grand, dramatic moment. It was a suffocatingly quiet one. It wasn't, "I have to leave him." It was, "She cannot learn this." This shrinking, this constant state of apology, she wasn't going to learn it from me. Not anymore. I didn't pack a bag that night, but for the first time, in the privacy of my own head, I looked at my life and I didn't call it normal. I called it unacceptable. And that was the beginning of the end. I had this fantasy that the second I walked out that door, the world would turn to Technicolor. I expected birds to chirp, a soundtrack to start. I expected to feel free. Instead, I walked into a cheap, empty apartment, and the silence was so loud it was terrifying. So I overcorrected. I went into manic supermom mode. I was going to be the happiest, most well-adjusted single mother on earth. I was painting walls a color I called aggressive sunshine, trying to cook organic kale muffins that tasted like sadness, and signing us up for every mommy and me class in a 10-mile radius. The crash came while trying to assemble a pink castle-shaped toddler bed. The instructions were in Swedish. I stripped a screw and I just slid down the wall and sobbed, surrounded by cardboard and the smell of manic enthusiasm. Freedom felt an awful lot like failure. The second guessing was brutal. About a week in, my phone buzzed, a text. Just 3 words, "The house is empty," and my stomach just dropped. Instantly, the doubts flooded in. Was I overreacting? He sounds so sad, maybe it wasn't that bad, maybe I was the problem. My mind was a highlight reel of every good moment we'd ever had, completely erasing the bad. I actually picked up my car keys. I stood at my new apartment door, ready to go back, just to talk, to fix it. But as my hand was on the doorknob, I saw it. a clumsy crayon drawing my daughter had taped to the wall. It was a picture of the two of us in our new aggressive sunshine house with giant goofy smiles. I put the keys down. Staying gone was harder than leaving. It was a full-time job, and the pay was exhaustion. Every boundary was a new battle. I said, we only communicate about our daughter, and only by text. 10 minutes later, he'd call. My heart would pound watching the phone ring, but I'd let it go to voicemail. Every ignored call felt like a victory, but it cost me. It cost me so much energy. One day at drop-off, he showed up with my favorite coffee, the specific bougie hazelnut brand I hadn't had in years, the one I'd forgotten I liked. I said thank you, and as soon as I turned the corner, I poured the whole thing, all $4 of it, into a trash can. It felt wasteful and mean and absolutely necessary. The wins weren't dramatic. They were small and quiet. I was in the grocery store in the coffee aisle. I just stood there for a solid 5 minutes, staring. I realized I had no idea what kind of coffee I liked. I'd been drinking his preferred dark roast for so long I couldn't remember. And then it came to me. Hazelnut, not his, mine. I almost cried. Then, a few days later, I was on the phone with my sister and she suggested something, and I just said, no, I don't really want to do that. I didn't say I'm sorry, or give 1,000 reasons, just no. It came out of my mouth, and the world didn't end. I just had a preference, and I stated it. Who knew? So I'm still a mess. My apartment is messy, my hair is messy, but it's my mess. The apologetic voice is still in my head some days, a ghost I know really well. But now I can tell it, hey, thanks for sharing, but you don't live here anymore. The real win came last week. My daughter spilled her juice, a flood of purple across the floor. She froze and looked up at me, her eyes wide, bracing for impact. The old me would have apologized for her, but I just smiled. Oops, I said. Let's get a towel. And her whole body just relaxed. She didn't say sorry, and neither did I. I'm not surviving anymore. I'm just living. And it's so much harder and so much better than I ever imagined. If you've been there too, or you're there right now, you're not alone. Drop a comment. I actually read them. And if you want more messy, real stories like this, hit subscribe. We're all a mess here. It's fine.